In improvement science, variation is defined as the fluctuation of performance in a system. Variation is common in our everyday lives, like the time it takes you to commute home from work each day, or the waste your home produces week to week. One way to understand system performance is to look at variation over time in your data or process. Variation is a result of system design, and decreasing variation is one of the earliest indicators of systems improvement. Understanding why variation happens and how to respond to it is core to improving outcomes. Why does variation matter? First, reducing variation creates a more stable system, one where we can better predict the results and more appropriately respond to fluctuations. When we are unable to predict the performance of a system, it can be frustrating for those working in the system, as well as those impacted by it. Second, investigating sources of variation helps you to recognize what external factors impact your system's performance. Even if you can't change these external factors, accounting for them will support your improvement efforts. Third, exploring variation also helps us to learn what factors we should replicate or change in the system. For example, if we see extremely positive outcomes in a system, be it a school or hospital, or in this case commute time, we can study their successes to determine what aspects of their approach we can replicate elsewhere. This is often called learning from positive deviants or bright spots. Finally, given an unstable system, people may opt into alternative systems, like paying to use a toll road, which may exacerbate inequities by only improving the system for those who can afford to pay. How do we identify and learn from variation? Common cause variation is the random variation present in stable systems and processes. Special cause variation is performance that falls outside the usual range and is caused by circumstances other than those that regularly affect that process. We can apply these categories to a simple example of variation: commute times. On a normal day, it might take you anywhere between 25 to 35 minutes to get home from work. That is common cause variation. However, if there is a distinct event, like a blocked lane of traffic, it could take you an hour or more. This is special cause variation. To recognize whether variation is common or special cause, we need to measure it over time. When we understand variation, we avoid reacting to a single data point and instead make sure to look at what is happening over time. This is why we collect and analyze data as frequently as possible in improvement. So, if you're trying to get a handle on the variation in your evening commute times, you would track the time it takes you to get home from work every day. One way to analyze the collected data is in control charts. Control charts are an important tool for understanding variation and for differentiating between the two types of variation. A control chart has upper and lower control limits and a center line, which is the average. Data falling within these limits are a result of common cause variation, or the normal range of what our system can produce. For our commuting example, it may take you between 25 to 35 minutes to get home in normal rush hour traffic. These data points are within the control limits and represent common cause variation. Let's say there's a broken down car blocking a lane on the highway. The backup of traffic adds an additional 20 minutes to your evening commute. Here, we see that the data points fall well outside the control limits. This is special cause variation. While it's important to uncover these special causes, it wouldn't necessarily make sense to redesign our system based on these factors. When you have special cause variation, it's important to investigate what happened and why. Knowing why will help you avoid conditions that lead to negative outcomes or replicate behaviors or conditions that lead to positive outcomes. As a more advanced data analysis tool, not every team will start their improvement project using control charts. Run charts are simpler and a powerful tool to get started with learning from variation. Check out our video, Measurement for Learning, to learn more. Using what you have learned about variation, you can avoid a number of common improvement pitfalls. Some pitfalls include distrusting or misinterpreting the data, or assuming instances of common cause variation are special causes. We may even blame or give credit to people for things they have no control over. To avoid these pitfalls, we can analyze variation over time before reacting to data. Distinguish between the typical variation of our system and outliers in performance, and investigate the sources of variation to account for the factors outside our system that are affecting performance. Understanding variation helps us to learn what is driving high performance and replicate those practices. In summary, Decreasing variation is one of the earliest indicators of systems improvement with results that are more predictable and stable. Understanding variation requires frequent data to learn from over time, not reacting to single data points. It is important to distinguish between common and special cause variation and react to each appropriately. As we look to make our system more predictable and to improve outcomes, it's important to recognize the sources of variation so we can respond to them in our improvement efforts. To learn more about variation and tools that help you measure and learn from it, visit shift-results.com.